What is your name?
My name is Rachel.
And
Believe it or not.
and how old are you, Rachel?
I'm 27, believe it or not.
What is your passion in life?
My passion is kind of is about connection and kind of like bridging the gap between like non-human spiritual spirits with human spirits, and kind of like for all of us to remember that we're all part of one another. It's art, basically.
Yeah.
I grew up in a white, middle-class, borderline suburban country culture in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. And what is the first thing you think of when you hear the word failure?
I think of like, well, I don't really think, I can like feel it in my body. Like I can feel where I hold that feeling of failure, and it's kind of like in my solar plexus and like my stomach kind of feeling. That's like the first thing I think of, is kind of like, where does it go into my body? Which is like a lot of the work that I do, is trying to like identify like where I hold and other people hold emotions and stuff in their body. And then afterwards I think about like my process with failure, and ultimately I think I have that physical reaction, and then I think about like lessons.
Mm. And what does failure mean to you?
Failure means to me, it's kind of reminds me of like something like a sin building up, and I don't know how to finish that one.
Do you think the culture you were raised in influenced the way that you think about failure?
Definitely. I think, like not even necessarily like speaking to my family, but speaking to like the societal structures of like capitalism and like the world that I was born into, and like not to mention like the like religion and just like really normal kind of like life that I was, house that I was raised in, and expectations, and love for my family, and wanting to prove myself in a certain way. Like definitely. But I think that like a big part of my life has been kind of like facing that, like part of like my growth and like my path in life has been like continually doing things that everybody views as a failure, and just seeing myself like grow and kind of like make my own path that looks like this path of failure, but it's just like completely unfolding into success. And like success doesn't mean necessarily like monetary. It doesn't mean that to me at all.
What does it mean to you, success?
It means like for me it's like having like a strong feeling of like who you are and what you're meant to be doing, and that can change at all times, like what you're meant to be doing, but like to know what you're meant to be doing in that moment, and like being in your heart and acting from that place, and doing the thing, like going after and doing the things that you feel right, that are right and good for you and for your community.
What was the most impactful failure that you've made in your life?
I was thinking about this question a lot while everybody was talking, and I don't have like any particular situations that like came to mind. Like when I was thinking of particular failures, it kind of, I was like kind of like going underneath that and seeing that a lot of them came down to fear and like not really like listening to myself or listening to someone else, and how they were feeling, or that kind of situation of like not having awareness for myself and my community members, or just like not being present, not acting from a place of solid groundedness, you know. Yeah, with a lot of fear.
Definitely. Yeah. Not being of service.
Yeah, not being of service to myself or anyone else. It's not like you necessarily have to be in service all the time, but when you make a choice out of your ego or what you think you want but you don't really want, or what you're trying to do to please someone else, or from a selfish place, or you know, there's like all sorts of dark places you can go with that. But that's all real stuff too, and you know, that's where the lessons come from. You know,
what is something that you wish you were aware of when you were feeling the shame of failure?
I wish you know, it's so funny when you're like experiencing anything that kind of like hurls you into the unknown. It's always so uncomfortable. And I guess it's like those reminders of like, and sometimes I resent these reminders of like, there's a lesson in that. And you're like, God, why do I have to learn so many goddamn lessons in my life? You know, why is everything a goddamn lesson? Why can't I just have fun for once? But you know, it's like the reminder of like, this is happening. There is a reason. The reason is not necessarily like a good reason. It's not necessarily like, oh, you failed at this because you're gonna win the jackpot later. It's like, no, not necessarily, but there's like some sort of like spiritual growth there. And to know that, like, to like have like comfort and understanding and like deepening of that like really witchy place called the unknown, you know? And kind of like as I speak about it, like the presence and understanding of it now, kind of like transferring that over, like that feeling, that emotional protection to that situation of feeling shame or failure. Yeah.
And how has experiencing failure transformed you into who you are now?
I mean, it's just shown me so much how to act and how to be, and how to like always try to and strive towards like acting from like my heart, but with like really clear boundaries, like having open heart, clear boundaries, that sort of a thing. It like every time there's like a situation of failure, which I don't even know as we're talking about it how much I believe in it, as like like, you know, I feel like it's so easily transmutable, and I think that those things have really just shift, you know, like those things we can really have a lot of power to shift things within ourselves and show us so much self-reflection so that we can grow.
Beautiful.
Yeah. How to come correct in this world.